Bear with us just a minute. We've got a committee meeting going on, so we'll start here shortly. One of us, we omitted a. Call the roll to establish a quorum.
Senator Albritton, Senator Chambliss, Senator Coleman Madison, Senator Elliott,
Here.
Senator Gavan, Senator Gudger, Senator Orr, Senator Roberts, Senator Fortier, Senator Shelnut, Senator Butler, Senator Hawley.
Here. 7 present. We have a quorum. We're going to skip down on the agenda. One of our colleagues has a important meeting he needs to go to. Senate Bill 214 will be forthcoming first. He says a very short bill, he thinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the recognition. SB 214 is an agency bill for the State Council of Arts, simply allowing them to issue per diem to their volunteers that come in for various functions that their many volunteers come in for.
Mr.
Other
Chairman,
states do this.
move
Yes, sir.
favorable. Second.
A report by Senator Roberts, seconded by Senator Elliott. All those in favor of, let's call the roll first on the bill.
Senator Albritton, Senator Chambliss, Senator Coleman Madison,
Aye.
Senator Elliott,
Aye.
Senator Gavan, Senator Gudger, Senator Orr, Senator Roberts, Senator Fortier, Senator Shelnut, Senator Butler, Senator Hawley.
Aye. 8 ayes. The bill is given a favorable report. Senate Bill 214.
Thank you, Mr.
Now,
Chairman,
come
and
back
thank you,
up
committee
to the
members.
top of the page. Thank you, Senator. Come back up to the top of the page. House Bill 77 by Representative Rich, carried today by our colleague from Geneva County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Members, this is the companion bill to House Bill 58 affirming the county's participation in county assessed property cases.
I'd move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
A report by Senator Gavan, seconded by Senator Orr. All those in favor of the bill to be given a favorable report will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. House Bill 77 is passed. Elliott, I believe, is carrying House Bill
you, Mr. Chairman.
205 by Blackshear.
He's here, Mr. Chairman. Let him. Second.
Senator Gavan moves for a favorable report, seconded by Senator Orr. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Senator Blackshear, your bill is passed. Public hearing has been asked for on Senate Bill 44. I think we've had a short version of a public hearing on this bill before. Is that right, Senator?
That's correct.
We will be taking the bill up in hopefully in a like manner to this morning, this afternoon. We'll call Senate Bill 203 by, no, that's not right. It's a public hearing 244, Senator Jones. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I won't belabor the point since we've had one public hearing already. Basically, there are about 28 cities or so in the state that have an occupational tax. It's a tax on working, and it's kind of a rare bird. We have rates that are as high as 2% across the state, and I just feel it's unfair to tax people for the privilege of working. So this bill very thoughtfully phases out these taxes over a 20-year period. As you all know, we have some issues in terms of police jurisdictions. Some of these cities, we don't know whether they're being used or not currently in the police jurisdictions. The bill would not allow that, but if they're already doing it, it's my interpretation of the bill that they would still be allowed to do so. Also, annexation is another big issue that's brought forward in this bill. Industrial sites could be annexed into a city and the tax applied there. It's kind of a money grab. So those are some of the major concerns. I'll open it up for questions, or we can start the public hearing if you wish, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We'll recognize an opponent of the bill, Allison Edge.
Thank you. I'm Allison Edge. I'm the finance director for the city of Auburn. I want to give you a few points from the city on this bill. Auburn has had an occupational license tax since 1970. This revenue source, which is our second largest revenue source, nearly 15% of our general fund comes from this occupational license tax. In a community like Auburn, where there's a lot of public institutional property, almost 20% of our property does not pay property tax. So this is something that has helped bridge the gap for that over this time period. Having this occupational license tax has not prevented industrial recruitment, evident in the fact that industrial payrolls in Auburn have grown from nearly nothing to over 200 million during this time period that we've had this occupational license tax. Since 1994, industrial companies have invested more than $2 billion in Auburn. So obviously there has been no deterrent to industrial recruitment. One of the reasons for our industrial success is our support of the school system. Our city supports our school system wholeheartedly and has for years. This occupational license tax has given us the opportunity to dedicate over 30% of our sales tax to our school system. In addition to that, we have dedicated our special 5 mil property tax to our school system as well for capital projects. If this bill passes, our formula for school funding will change. That will be one of the things that will likely change. It's one of our biggest expenditures. Other options on the table, should this bill pass, phasing out, affecting services, our public safety services, our capital projects, all to the detriment of our citizens, and the potential for raising sales tax. Okay, so 1 penny of sales tax in Auburn does not even make up what we get in occupational license tax. So we're talking about potentially a 25% or more increase in sales tax. Now, it may be phased in, but either way, that's something that's going to happen. Likely to happen should this go away. Even phased in, this is a significant revenue loss for Auburn. We're talking $85 to $90 million over the 10-year period that our 1% would be phased out. Everything that I've mentioned indicates that this is a local issue. This is not a state issue. This is a local issue, and we would like the right to be able to make that decision for Auburn.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Guy Gunter.
Senator Holly, members of the Governmental Affairs Committee. My name is Guy Gunter. I live in Opelika, and I'm the Opelika City Attorney. The City of Opelika is opposed to SB 44, which proposes to phase out occupational taxes. Opelika is one of those communities that does levy an occupational tax. No one likes to pay taxes, and I'm one of those, but as Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. once said it best, taxes are what pays for a civilized society. A civilized society is one where citizens of every income can attend a quality school, where transportation systems are maintained at high levels of safety, where well-trained police, fire, and EMT personnel are available to protect and serve the public. These things don't come cheap, but they're worth having. It is our taxes that make a decent civic life possible. In Opelika, we have levied a occupational license fee since 1963. That's almost 60 years. The elimination of the occupational license fee in Opelika would result in a loss of at least $13.4 million in annual revenue. That's 19% of Opelika's budget. A forced reduction in revenue as proposed by SB 44 would have a negative impact on the financial stability of the city and could cause a downgrade in its bond rating. This revenue is critical to maintaining the day-to-day operations of the city. If SB 44 is enacted, the city of Opelika will have to look to alternative revenue options or reduce services that affect quality of life in Opelika. The proponents of SB 44 often point out that people who work in the city but live outside of it are required to pay occupational license fees, although they have no voice in electing city officials. In other words, if we can't vote for them, why can they tax us? This is a red herring. I would point out that in the first place that this argument could be applied to every tax that's levied by a municipality. In Opelika, the city levies a 4-cent local sales tax on retail sale of tangible personal property. In Opelika, we're fortunate to have many fine retail stores and restaurants. Thousands of people who do not live in Opelika shop in our stores. These thousands of people have no voice in electing city officials, yet they pay the sales tax. My question is, what's next? If you abolish occupational taxes for cities, or sales taxes next? And I would point out that if you're opposed to taxes on income, that is on wages and salaries, the state of Alabama levies an income tax which is imposed on salaries and wages and is deducted from the employee's salary each week, and that tax is up to 5%. So I would challenge the legislature, if you believe that this is an unacceptable tax, that you should start with the state income tax. Some people say that this tax is not fair to impose it on someone that doesn't live in the city limits, and we would say it is. It's very important to create jobs in a municipality, but creating jobs is very expensive. The city has a lot of industrial land that we have acquired, and we run utilities and roads through that property. We have a very good industrial park with 2,200 acres. The cost of acquiring this land and running the utilities to these industrial parks in Opelika has been over $22 million. When recruiting industries, we also have to pay incentives and there are a number of other things that we have to do. So we think it's entirely fair that employees that live outside of the city should have to contribute to these job creation expenses of the city. Finally, local tax policy should be a question for the people of Opelika. Alabama's local governments are constitutionally required to balance their budgets. Local officials should have more options for responding to fiscal challenges, not less. Tax limitations such as those proposed by SB 44 can create daunting challenges for cities who try to balance their budgets while maintaining the level of services their residents expect. SB 44, if enacted, will impede the ability of Opelika elected officials to manage their finances and provide adequate services to its residents. Opelika voters are plenty smart, and they know the needs of the community. Council members are democratically elected and are responsible to the citizens who elect them. If Opelika voters ever decided that the occupational license fee should be repealed, they can elect council members of their choice who will pledge to repeal the ordinance. This has not happened because Opelika residents recognize that their quality of life depends on the continuation of these taxes. I urge you to vote against SB 44. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joe Taylor, I remind you, Mr. Taylor, if you would speak to the bill as opposed to the local politics maybe of the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senators.
If we've heard it before, we would appreciate you going ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm Joe Taylor.
Joe
I'm the mayor
Taylor.
of Rainbow City, and I represent the 10,191 citizens in Rainbow City. I just want to speak to the spirit of the bill. While I understand that, having been a 25-year professional firefighter in the city of Gadsden, paying occupational, also a businessman where all of my employees paid occupational, as well as now being the mayor who pays occupational, I just want you to know that this would be detrimental in every sense for our city. Most of all in the ability for the city to maintain its sovereignty and adjusting and being able to put tax in place. I would just ask that you would consider the position of especially the small town that we don't have the ability to go back in and begin to tax away our economic development, which is what we would have to do in the sense after having the occupational tax removed, even over a long term.
Mayor, thank you very much
Sir,
for
thank
coming. If you would tell our friend Larry Means we say hello.
I spoke to him this morning. I sure will.
Gil Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Representative.
Yes, sir. You know, basically, we as citizens, we as the state don't want the feds to tell us what to do, and I think the municipalities are the same way. The municipalities don't want the state to tell them what to do. Now, if any municipalities at this time wants to remove the occupational tax, they have that capability. So why do we need the state telling us what to do regarding that? And earlier, I'd actually had a PARCA study done because we have 5 municipalities in Etowah County that have the occupational tax. And basically what the PARCA study said is that if you take the occupational tax away, you're going to have to find it somewhere else. And we in Gadsden have gone from 60,000 people in the 1960s down to about 34,000 now. And a lot of low-income housing, 40+% are rental houses. Now, if you're going to have to charge extra for property tax, which people will want to shoot you if you do that, I just don't think that's the way to go. And I understand, and due respect to the senator that sponsored it, I think, again, it's local folks that should make the decision. And
Mr. Chairman,
Senator.
I just asked the sponsor representative, I said, why don't you do a local constitutional amendment? He said, you keep blocking that. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Well, then that's the local people deciding. And if that were the case, I did it for my home county. We did it, there were a rash of them about 10 years ago where counties allow the people to vote locally on this issue, and up or down, what they want to do. What's the problem in Etowah County that they can't vote on this?
Well, I tell you what, in the city of Gadsden, it makes up 28% of their budget, which
Okay,
is
and-
$18
but-
million.
But let the local people decide, and just let the citizens of Etowah decide this issue. You got other cities than just Gadsden.
Well, that is up to the committee today to decide if you want to do it statewide, and if he does a local constitutional amendment, I will entertain that, but I'm going to talk to my municipalities and the people in my district.
You gonna continue, or have you finished?
Well, and one other thing is that all these municipalities use these for bond ratings, because if you take that away, their bond ratings are going to be affected. So I can understand about decreasing taxes. However, we're going to have to put it somewhere else and gain that. And if we take away the occupational tax, even though it's, I think it's, how much is it, 1% over 20 years? Is that correct? Or tenth of a percent over, that's $750,000 to Gadsden. And I tell you what, in 5 years, you know, if we had growth and we had population growth as well, you know, from workforce development, it would be a good thing. We've just decreased in size, and it's going to be hard to replace that, and there would be a lot of services that would be affected.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee
Mr.
members.
Tony Haygood. I remind you, Mr. Haygood, we are going in session in 30 minutes, and this committee will have to adjourn by then. We have another public hearing coming up with at least 7 people to speak, and, you know, the mathematics are easily applied. So if you would recognize you, Mr. Haygood.
Thank you, Chairman Holly and members of the committee. I will be very brief because most of my arguments against the bill have already been stated. The only thing that I would emphasize, as the mayor of Rainbow City said, and the representative from Gaston, we're a smaller community in Tuskegee, and the occupational tax makes up a substantial amount of our budget, approximately approaching about 28 to 30% of the budget. If we take that revenue away with nothing else to replace it, it'll have a severe impact upon our city, as it would many cities our size. Medium and smaller size cities depend on that. Now, we have a university in our community, the major VA hospital. People come there with expectations. Although we're a smaller city, they're coming from all over, and they expect us to have services at a certain level and of a certain quality, and we try to do that. So it's very important that we retain this as a source of revenue. We don't have many other options. Recently, the county, because they're allowed to do it, raised sales taxes. We didn't have a say in that. The county commission decided that, so we can't turn to sales tax to replace that revenue. So to just take away something we already have and have had since the early 70s would be very detrimental to our community. So we ask that you consider that you consider the small and medium-sized cities. This source of revenue is very critical to us, and as has been stated, a lot of our bonds are situated based on it, our bond rating. We are rebuilding our community, and we are moving into forward progress, and we would hope that we'd be able to continue that. So we appreciate your consideration, Senator Holly, committee members. Thank you.
Thank you. I intend maybe next week to take this bill up again, at which time we'll see what the thoughts of the committee is. Thank you, Mr. Senator Jones.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
you
Chairman.
coming up.
I would just say quickly, I know time's of the essence, but you all know the game that many of the associations down here play with buying time. And to me, you know, getting this bill out of committee, we haven't even had discussions on even the police jurisdiction or the annexation part, and being able to get.
If I could interrupt, I have some members of the committee, and if the majority of them look like they want to vote on it today and not next week.
Sounds good. May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Any objections to that from anyone?
No.
And we'll keep the bill before us, and we'll be open for voting on it.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment I want to offer, 2 amendments.
Yes, Senator.
Okay, let me just preface my amendment.
We have 30 minutes, we go in session.
I understand we all going to the same place. First of all, I want to thank. you might make a stop before you get there. I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm from Jefferson County, Birmingham, and our city, like you all, have had an occupational tax for a long time. It is very important, the mention of your bond rating. We have been able to do great things with our our occupational tax in a growing city. But again, everybody's not a larger city, so everybody comes to Birmingham to work. The mention of the fact that when they come there, if something happens, your police has to respond, your firefighters have to respond. If you're having a large event, your public works and everything, you're not collecting that tax as these people come in, but that's still a tax on the city of Birmingham and its citizens. And understand, we have to pay those taxes as well. Senator Jones is my sweet mate, and I asked him, make this a local issue. It is a local issue. I am definitely for home rule. This is one thing that local cities can do to help themselves. And you have to understand, they build their budgets, as someone said, based on anticipated revenue. And this is a revenue that they have been getting for a long time. The economy is not what it used to be. Businesses have closed. And so now the legislature, and I'm hoping my colleagues on this, will not support this bill, because now we would be taking something else away from businesses and everybody else. It would be different even if the business people had come up and complained about it, but they haven't. I know I've spoken with the League of Municipalities. They are opposed to it because they represent all of these cities. So I have an amendment.
And moving right along.
I have an amendment.
Senator Gurger.
One is to exempt the city of Birmingham, and the other one is a correctional. So I'll move the amendment 1.
Second.
All those in favor of adopting the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second amendment is just
You make a motion?
a correction.
I'm not making a motion. I want to speak to it just for 1 second.
Yes, sir.
I've got such mixed emotions about this as a city councilman for 4 terms. I understand home rule. I understand that they need that. They're already using that revenue. It's going to have to come from somewhere. On the Senate side of this, I hate occupational tax whatsoever. I'm sitting here to represent 150,000 people in my district, North Central and Northwest Alabama. 7 of the 26 have an occupational tax in their municipal budget right now that they use somehow, some way that they're able to help. So my question to you is, I know you're wanting this vote to get it out of committee, but I will violently oppose this on the floor if this does not, if this affects my municipality. So my question to you is this, to get my vote: are you going to work with me on this to make sure that somehow, some way, that my municipalities are not going to be underneath this and taking away their local funding?
To answer your question, Senator, yes, I commit to work with you to address your concerns. And that's all I'm asking folks really, is just to be able to play ball. I mean, I've been stalled and delayed on this bill. We haven't had any serious conversations about the PJ or about the annexation part, which are, to me, just give me, easy things that everybody should be able to agree with. We haven't discussed rate cap. What is an appropriate maximum rate for these things? So I'd like to be able to get that to the next stage so that we can actually have these conversations, because right now it's just delay.
And you understand my question. If
I do.
it doesn't, then you got to come see me before it hits the floor to let me know exactly where I am, correct?
I will do that. I'll do that.
You've always done what you said you're going to do. I appreciate that. I'm going to give this one option today to let it pass through, but then after that, well, I need to know before we get there. Thank you, Senator Jones.
We're not talking. Wait a minute, hold on. What are we voting on here?
The bill as amended.
Oh, as amended. I want to put my second amendment on because this is a correction. Yeah, this is
All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Have a motion to yield the bill over to the floor. Senator Orr, second by Senator
Make mine no.
Addison. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
No.
Bill is in favor of report as amended.
Senator Jones, we're gonna have to work on this. I'm gonna be with Senator Gudger on this one. We just need to be a local bill. I love you, but I'm gonna be up there fighting you tooth and nail on this one.
Thank you, Senator.
And moving
Thank
right
you.
along. Second bill by Senator Elliott, I think, is going to handle the next. No, Mr. Jones is here.
Thank you,
Senator
members,
Jones, the state auditor.
for Andrew Jones Day. I apologize. This is a bill we passed in 2020. It's basically the same thing.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move favorable.
Hold on, members, if I'm,
Man,
hold on just a second.
38.
Or on Bill 38, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I have a substitute for that bill. I move that we adopt the substitute.
Second.
Friendly
Withdraw
substitute.
my motion.
The substitute should be in front of you, and it clarifies that all duties of the auditor be transferred to the treasurer. That's all duties instead of some specific duties, so that if this constitutional amendment passes, it moves all of those duties.
Senator Gavan moves adoption of the amendment.
Question?
Seconded by
Question?
Senator Roberts.
Question,
Go ahead. Okay.
sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this bill, state auditor, we are passing a bill to abolish the state auditor's
No, ma'am.
office?
To merge it into the Office of the Treasurer. This takes place in 8 years, so whoever is elected this fall, they get to serve 2 full terms if they wish, and they have time to facilitate the transfer and the organization of the consolidation of departments.
Okay, do we not feel that this bill deserves, at least for public consumption, my consumption as well, a little bit of discussion to explain about the impacts of this?
Senator, we passed this bill in 2020, right before the pandemic.
I must have had taken a ladies' break. Tell me about it a little bit. What's the impact here?
So basically, our auditor does not audit, right? They count furniture, for lack of a more eloquent way of saying it. And so this bill merges those duties into the Office of Treasurer. It's going to save us some money in the long run. Our budget for the auditor's office right now is about $1 million and change. So this just transfer those duties. We'll have a new auditor, a new treasurer that come in this fall. They have 8 years to sort out the details, and then the elections in 2030 will be for one person.
Okay, explain one thing then. So the auditor normally, I thought, go out and audit other agencies.
No, ma'am, that is the examiner of public accounts under the
Okay.
legislature that does that. So really, our state auditor has just 2 responsibilities: inventorying state property over, I think it's $300. I'm not sure the exact amount. Inventorying property over a certain amount of value, and making appointment to the Board of Registrars.
Okay, good. That was good information. Thank you. I'm ready to vote.
Motion by Senator Orr, seconded by Senator Elliott. All those in favor of the bill as amended or substituted, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, and Senate Bill 38 is given a favor report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
We have another public hearing called on Senate Bill 203. I have 7 people would like to speak. First, we recognize the sponsor of the bill, Senator Orr.
Folks, this is just a what I would term a transparency bill. In the interest of time, it does just several things. It says that they put their fees and fine data into a database. It becomes accessible to the public. The examiner would do reports on the activities of the municipal courts, and that they would submit an annual financial report. That's it in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Proponents of the bill, Nelson, Lee.
Thanks so much. I'll keep this quick. I'm Leah Nelson. I'm Research Director at the Alabama Appleseed Center for Law and Justice. I'm here to speak in favor of this bill. Exactly 1 month ago, I was up in Jefferson County at a town hall about questionable arrests and predatory practices by Brookside's police department and municipal courts. In 12 years in Alabama, I have never seen a crowd like this come together. Old white miners, young black folks, men, women, everybody telling versions of the same story about how they had lost money, firearms, vehicles, and other property to an unaccountable court system. Brookside is probably an outlier, but the fact is we have no way of knowing that for sure. And that's the problem SB 203 seeks to correct. In 2018, Appleseed published a report that detailed the impact of excessive fines and fees on Alabamians all over the state, and we weren't the first to explore this problem. The nonpartisan PARCA came before us, the Alabama State Bar, the Jefferson County Community Corrections System have all documented this problem. Municipal courts all over the state have faced and lost lawsuits over their practices, and with Brookside now in the news, Alabama is facing a crisis of confidence in its municipal court system. The first step to restoring confidence and rooting out bad actors, if there are any, is transparency, and that is all this bill calls for. Right now, municipal courts bring in unknown sums of money from unknown sources through opaque processes that deprive people of their liberty and property. All this bill does is require them to be transparent about what they're doing and how. We're not talking about getting rid of income, just accounting for it. I think the league has some concerns about the specifics of the bill. I'm sure there's a workable way to deal with those once it gets to the floor, and I hope that doesn't stop you from making a favorable report for today. Calls for this type of reform are coming from the lieutenant governor and lawmakers from both parties. This bill is a sensible step that will improve transparency, restore confidence in the system, and allow for evidence-based decision-making about budgets and other factors. It's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Opponent, Mr. Joe Taylor.
Thank you again. I just add my 2 cents to that is that a city of our size, and again, I know I'm talking about a smaller city, it's going to be the ability to record that, the manpower that it takes to go along with that almost feels like an unfunded mandate in our case, and we would just vehemently oppose this bill.
Thank you, sir. Jamie Kavanaugh.
Senator Hawley, members of the committee, thank you for hearing my testimony. My name is Jamie Kavanaugh, and I'm an attorney at the Institute for Justice. Since 1991, the Institute for Justice has worked to preserve civil liberties across the country and has taken a particular interest in ending abusive fines and fees. I'd like to make a few quick points about the problems with fines and fees and why this bill that would shed light on the practices in Alabama is very important. So first of all, information on fines and fees is needed all over the country. It's a problem in Alabama, but it's a problem nationally as well. The controversy in Brookside shows what is possible when local governments and courts are allowed unfettered discretion to raise revenue through fines and fees. In 2018, Brookside's budget was $582,000. In 2020, it ballooned to $1.2 million. You might hear later that municipalities don't earn that much money from fines and fees through courts, but that is not true because Brookside was able to more than double its budget in 2 years. Second, the overuse of fines and fees leads to public safety issues. Individuals with court debt are less likely to have positive interactions with law enforcement, and data shows that court debt also leads to recidivism. Appleseed's data with surveys show that, and academic peer-reviewed research shows that as well. Finally, there's a national trend to abolish fines and fees altogether, and this is a less drastic step. This is simply an accountability and transparency bill and a good government bill. So thank you for considering this testimony. I'd ask for the committee's support for SB 203.
Second, next individual as an opponent is Mr. Patel. Pronounce your first name for me, sir.
Umang Patel. Umang.
Amok?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Umang Patel. I'm the court director for the city of Vestavia Hills. Proposed SB 203 has the greatest of intentions of creating transparency within and accountability within the court system. We fully understand and agree that there needs to be an ability to ensure the court system is doing what they're supposed to be doing. While I don't disagree with the intent, I believe there's already a system and process in place that effectively does this that can be expanded rather than SB 203. Administrative Office of Courts sends out an annual survey requesting such data as cases filed and cases disposed. I believe that SB 203 can use the filings from AOC and expand on that rather than creating another database, which would ultimately just create multiple databases of the same information. AOC also publishes that information on their website as well, so it is accessible through their website. Another thing that I'd like to speak about on SB 203 is some of the data statistics required. Some of those statistics are very difficult to gather. In municipal court, we don't have specialty dockets, unlike circuit court and district court, so we wouldn't be able to have indigency court. Every time someone comes before Judge Sturdivant, they are asked about their ability to pay. While we may not call it an indigency hearing, everyone is asked their opportunity to pay, if they need a payment plan, what their job status is, things like that. To be able to keep track of those statistics, it would require changes within our court software or manually tallying that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Senator Hams? Harris, Senator Harris. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
It's so cold up here, we can't think real good.
That's okay, I understand. Okay, well, my name is Sandra Harris, and I thank you guys for listening to my testimony. I am a victim of bad policing of Brookside Police Department. To tell you a little background, I know I only have a certain amount of time, but their fines and their fees are horribly excessive. I mean,
Damn.
I paid $252 on 6 charges, which was actually back in January 8th, 2021. 6 charges, $242. And I just want you guys to know that I am a citizen. I work every single day. This is my first time experiencing anything like this with Brookside Police Department. Okay, $250 times 6 is the court fines that I had to pay. And I'm still paying charges. Not because I was guilty, because I was driving through Brookside and it was getting dark and I simply turned my headlights on. When I turned my headlights on, there comes a blue police behind me, dark tinted windows, dark truck, pulled me over, and I'm going to visit my kids, my grandchildren, and my daughter. What they charged me with was 6 charges now. They're all false. They charged me with disorderly conduct, not displaying insurance, which I couldn't display my insurance because when I reached to get my insurance out the glove compartment, his hand was on his holster and he said, do not do it. So I didn't have a chance to even give him my insurance papers. So this is just a cap of what Brookside Police Department is doing, these bogus stops with fines and fees that are excessive, okay? Nothing is over, it's under $252 in your fines. Your fines is $250 and up. 6 charges. Driving while casting a light when I was simply turning my headlights on. Disorderly conduct. Failure to display insurance. Failure to display insurance. Now, the reason why I keep saying it, because I couldn't get my insurance out because I thought he was going to actually shoot me because he told me not to do it. And I know it might be blunt to some of you guys, but this is something serious. I'm very upset about it because they're doing it so much. If you multiply $250 times 500 to 600 stops a month with 5 or more charges, I haven't seen anybody, when I went to the town hall meeting, that had 1 charge. They either had 5 or above charges, bogus charges. So I'm asking that you pass this bill because I am a witness that they are doing excessive charges of fines and fees. And not only that, they have a company, Jets Automotive. I kept this book because I knew they were doing something crazy. They have to charge you in order to get the information to know where your car is located. This right here is what they give you to go and get your car. No address, no phone number. When you go and get your car, you have to pay $175 for the information to get your car. Then when you go and pick up your car, you have to pay $160 to get the car out the impound. So I am not in favor of opposing. I really want this bill to go through. This is something that you guys can go on 3340 and check out my story because I am an activist for this because it has happened so many times to so many people.
Move favor report, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Gavan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
We're going to suspend the public hearing just for a few minutes.
so, you know, I don't know how many municipalities there are in the state of Alabama. I think there's over 400. And nobody is excusing what happened at Brookside. I've got texts today from relatives complaining about Brookside they're obviously a bad actor. I do think this is overkill. There are other ways to do it. I do think this is an administrative burden on municipalities that are not bad actors. I mean, we got 400 and something children, and we got one bad actor, and we're going to punish everybody. And I'd rather dissolve the city of Brookside, which we probably have the power to do. But that would be a more responsible action, I think, than making every other municipality do something because Brookside misbehaved. So I can't support it.
Discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator.
So there are other municipalities around the state that do this. When we were working on the civil asset forfeiture bill, this came to light. And there's, we're in negotiations with the league to moderate the bill, but the bill needs to move forward. This is a serious situation, and this shines a light on it. And hopefully it won't be repeated in the state. And the other actors that are policing for profit these days, that will dissuade them from continuing those activities.
Lori Lynn? Lori? Could we go forward without too much to do with your testimony, since Senator Orr seems to be speaking for the league in a sense?
Okay, just a second. I just wanted to say thank you guys for listening to my testimony.
Lori? It needs to be brief, if you go ahead.
No, I'll be really brief, because again, we're not opposed to transparency, and we're certainly not going to stand up here and defend bad actors, but I do think there is a path forward. As Mr. Patel from Vestavia Hills mentioned, since 2009, AOC has been collecting this data. It's been on a voluntary basis. I understand from them they get about a 50% return rate. I think we can make that mandatory, with the penalty being if you don't comply with this, you can't continue to collect. Because whenever you try to put these monetary penalties on a municipality, you're really penalizing the taxpayers. But I think what you can do is halt their ability to collect if they're not going to comply with the data. And I think AOC's data is already in a digestible format that is, relatively easy for them to comply with. So I do think there's a path forward.
Thank you much. Now, Susie Huffaker, this is complete the public hearing. Susie is a proponent.
Actually, I'm a proponent for transparency of court costs. Y'all know you can't have a court cost bill, and I'm not going to show up to talk about it. And the importance of transparency, I too have spoken to Lori, and there is a form provided by AOC. It is a voluntary form, and only about 50% of the municipalities are providing that information. So I do think Lori's proposal of making that form mandatory so that we can see the transparency and where these court costs are going would be beneficial to everyone. And I think that would be an excellent option to give y'all to move, to allow you to move forward with the transparency as to the court costs. It perhaps would not list everything they're asking for in the bill, but it would address the cost aspect of it. And that would also allow for our judges in our state to know, for example, if someone is arrested in Coleman and they're up on, they've got their charges, the judge is looking at it. The judge right now has no way of knowing if that person owes court costs in the city of Madison, in the city of Bay Minette, or in Birmingham. The systems don't talk, and so the judge doesn't have a complete picture of the finances of the person in front of them. They only know what's in the state court system. So by allowing the municipalities to fill out this form and give it to AOC, it also would allow your judges to have a complete picture of the person standing before them. So that would help as well.
Senator Gertzer.
I'd just like to say that the administrative burden that this puts on and the amount of money, especially on small municipalities, especially rural, which is what I represent, would be overwhelming for a lot of these municipalities. But everything the last two ladies said, I totally believe in. I think transparency has to be there. I think there's a better way to do it, but I'll oppose this bill today.
I have a motion by Senator Orr to give the bill a favor report, seconded by Senator Holly. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is given a favor report. Senate Bill 255 with an amendment, Senator Orr.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Chairman, members, let me give you the amendment. It comes from Dr. Harrison, the Public Health Department. Basically, the amendment says that he would still have the authority to not get the governor's approval on a restaurant that needs to act differently or to cite a particular restaurant or a health situation, so I'll move adoption of the amendment.
Senator Orr moves to adopt the amendment, seconded by Senator Gavan. All those in favor of the amendment will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, the amendment is adopted. Motion now by Senator Orr to give the bill a favor report, seconded by Senator Elliott. All those having no amendment, so we do have an amendment.
As amended.
As amended.
Pardon? This,
We amended it.
all right, we're on the passage of Senate Bill 255 as amended. Correct? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We will now call Senate Bill 240 by Senator Orr.
Members, this is a bill from the Press Association. It's been worked out with the law enforcement folks. There is an amendment. I'd move adoption of the amendment.
Seconded by Senator Butler. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And ayes have it. The bill, the amendment is adopted. Now, favor report as amended. Senator Orr moves. Passes. Seconded by Senator Holly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the ayes have it. Bill's given favor report. Senator Beasley. 204, 205.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 205, presently, an elected member of the legislature receives a set of codes from the Secretary of State's office. And if you wanted to object to not receiving, be okay.
Move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
Over by Senator Orr, seconded by Senator Madison. All those in favor of the bill will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Senate Bill 205 is given a favor report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senate Bill 206 by Senator Allen.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This piece of legislation deals with the Sports Agent Commission issue, making it easier for the members. We have 19 members. 14 of those members are compliance officials from those universities and colleges across the state. Sometimes it's very difficult to get a quorum.
Move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Senator, motion by Senator Orr, seconded by Senator Gavan. All those in favor of favor report say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Senate Bill 206 is given a favor report.
Thank you, sir.
Senate Bill 213 by Senator Smitherman.
Good afternoon, members.
Good afternoon.
Good to be here. Good to be here. This bill, SB 213, this bill exempts computer hardware, computer programs, software applications, and automotive parts from the competitive bid law. Under certain law, computer hardware and word processing hardware are already exempt in cases where compatibility is a problem. This bill would extend that exemption to other computer and software products because compatibility is causing problems there too. For example, it causes interruptions in services if any entity is required to bid out a program that it is already using in order to upgrade the software or hardware. The bid process.
Senators have a favor report by Senator Orr and seconded by Senator Holly. Secretary, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is given a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senate Bill 214, Senator McClendon has already dealt with that. We're on Senate Bill 216 by Senator Singleton.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and committee. Right quick, this legislation will allow for the immediate confiscation of unstamped or untaxed tobacco products when transported or distributed within the state of Alabama by a person without an active tobacco permit or transport permit. The legislation will also impose penalties on non-registered sellers who fail to obtain a tobacco account. What this legislation does is enact the legislation that will provide penalties for civil penalty for those who are non-registered in the state. And what the Department of Revenue is basically doing is just trying to capture all the tax dollars that are coming in here.
Move up second.
On our cigarettes.
A report by Senator Gutter, seconded by Senator Orr. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no, the ayes have it. The bill is given a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee.
Senate Bill 222, Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The State Board of Examiners of Licensed Landscape Architects, they regulate landscape architect. This bill would provide further for the use of that title of landscape architects by individuals. It would authorize the board also to institute proceedings or injunctions for persons who use it if they have to go to circuit court. Also provide, establish some guidelines for those people that are inactive, have licenses that are inactive status, and require them for reactivation and for reinstatement of their fees.
Senator Gavan.
I just want to work with you on an amendment because the bill deals with corporations and partnerships. Almost no one uses partnerships anymore. Anybody that's got a good lawyer is not going to use a partnership. But we do use LLCs, limited liability companies, all the time. I just want to work that language in here. That's the only thing.
Thank you.
Motion by Senator Coleman Madison to give the bill a favorable report, seconded by Senator Butler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no, the ayes have it. The bill 222 is given a favorable report. I think we have an announcement by Senator Orr pertaining to Senator Figurs' bill.
I saw Senator Figurs earlier. She wanted to carry over her bills, SB 228.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bill's carried over. Senator Wagner, Senate Bill 262.
I'll move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
Second, motion by Senator Orr to give the bill a favorable report, seconded by Senator Gavan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no. Ayes have it. The bill is given a favorable report. Senate Bill 249, Senator Gavan.
Thank you. Secretary of State Merrill organized a voter task force, or voter fraud task force, I guess is a proper title. And I mean, you can't get a more bipartisan committee. I mean, just down the middle, and it was well represented about who was there. This is the results of that committee.
Second.
Senator Gavan.
Thank you.
To give a favorable report, seconded by Senator Gavan. You move for favorable report. Senator Orr. There you go. All those in favor say aye. Opposed no. And Senate Bill 249 is given a favorable report. We are adjourned within the time frame.
F&TE will meet in about 2 minutes, so if you're in F&TE, we're ready to start.
What's up, Judger? Doc, you gonna be around a little while later?
Go in 2:30 between now and
2 days we're taking away.
No, I've tried.
Got everything? Yeah, I guess.
Do you need one?
Okay, Representative Collins